Did you know Puerto Rico has a metro? If you've only been to the island's airport and tourism hotspots, you would be forgiven for not knowing about it, because it serves none of those places. This is Tren Urbano, a 10.7-mile automated metro system connecting Puerto Rico's capital of San Juan with its neighboring municipalities. It's the first metro system in the Caribbean, the only rapid rail transit in a US territory, and the first US metro system to open in the 21st century. But since its 2004 opening, it's tended to underperform expectations, and no expansions have ever been constructed to areas that could generate higher ridership. So is the system useful, serving only the area it does? Was it worth building at all? And could it finally see expansion in the near future? La única forma de saberlo es haciendo un viaje. Puerto Rico is a self-governing, unincorporated territory and commonwealth of the United States, situated about 1,000 miles to the southeast of Miami, Florida. The capital and largest city is San Juan, on the north side of the main island, with a municipal population of 342,000 and a metro area of 2.3 million, about the size of Pittsburgh. While popular urban destinations here include Condado Beach and Old San Juan, which dates back to when the island was a Spanish colony, San Juan's Tren Urbano starts farther to the south at Sagrado Corazon station, then travels south and west to Bayamon station, serving a total of 16 stops across the city and 2 adjacent municipalities. Since trains don't serve the city's airport, where I've just gotten off my flight, I need to find a bus to get me to the train. Alright, I've made it to San Juan Airport. It is very warm and very nice, and a welcome break from the snow in Massachusetts. But I have no idea where the bus is. I believe my stop is going to be this way, but we shall see. Okay, I'm more confused than I was before. I got to this very well-marked bus stop sign. It doesn't have the 40 bus, which is what Transit app is saying to take. Soon a bus comes, decorated as a shuttle to Tren Urbano, though it's not signed as the 40 like Transit app says. It's also free, which more than makes up for the ride quality. Buses are often called guaguas here in Puerto Rico. This word originated in Cuba from the sound of a klaxon horn. I'll give you one guess who taught me that fact. San Juan guaguas are run by the city's Autoridad Metropolitana de Autobuses, or AMA, the second oldest public transportation authority in the United States after New York's MTA. The AMA is overseen by the Puerto Rico Department of Public Works and the Integrated Transportation Authority, or ATI. These organizations also oversee the island's urban ferry and Tren Urbano. Leaving the airport, we pass across Laguna San Jose on a bridge decked out with US and Puerto Rican flags. Puerto Rico has been under US control since 1898, when it was seized from Spain during the Spanish-American War. Mountains loom behind the tropical urban landscape. Long ago, highlands like these were a refuge for natives and enslaved Africans, when this island was a Spanish plantation colony. From the bridge, we make a deviation to the Mall of San Juan, where the bus winds through a maze of parking garages without picking up or dropping off anyone. Then we're back on the highway. San Juan is a highly car-dependent city, with only 3.7% of residents commuting by public transit per a 2024 survey, down from 8.7% in 2015. Still, plenty of bus options are available as we pull into Piñero station and disembark. And we have made it to Piñero! So, I read online that Tren Urbano is rolling out a new payment system, and it looks like it's out of order. And it looks like it's free today, so... Tren Urbano used to use a fare payment system similar to New York's MetroCard, but like the MetroCard, that's now been phased out in favor of a more modern system, which was supposed to be online as of January 1st of this year, but doesn't appear operational today. We head up to the platform, where a train soon pulls in. These railcars were manufactured by Siemens at their plant near Sacramento, California, and per Wikipedia, they share many characteristics with Boston's Blue Line cars, which were made by the same company around the same time. But they do have one feature that's completely unique in the US. While the inside of the train is decently clean, the windows are filthy, and slightly difficult to film out of. The train plunges from its elevated viaduct to an underground tunnel, which takes us to Universidad Station, serving the University of Puerto Rico. Stop announcements are only made in Spanish. A short ride later, we get to Rio Piedras, a second underground stop. Then we rise back above ground, passing near the Jardín Botánico, the University of Puerto Rico's botanical gardens. This complex contains, among other things, a garden of plants that were important to the peoples we now call the Taino, who were the original inhabitants of the island. As you can see out the window, most of the scenery along the line is fairly suburban, and along stretches like this, Tren Urbano can hit up to 62 miles per hour, though it averages about 20.6. Fun fact, Puerto Rico measures distances in kilometers, but speeds in miles per hour. Centro Medico Station is situated at ground level, but once we leave it, we run elevated around the massive medical complex. One thing I like about Tren Urbano, and you'll see this more as we keep riding, is that it sometimes goes out of its way to serve useful destinations, unlike some other contemporary metros that chose the path of least inconvenience. Baltimore. Tren Urbano's designers reportedly took inspiration from some of the greats, the TN Boston, Marta Rail, the Vancouver SkyTrain, and BART. And very appropriately, we're now arriving in San Francisco Station, where we step off. From the platform, we can see an AMA bus depot down below. Descending to the entrance past this hanging artwork, I head out to find some food. I love that they have these pylons with the Tren Urbano logo on it. Very classy. San Francisco Station is elevated, one of a total of 10 elevated stations on Tren Urbano. 4 others are built at grade or in open cuttings, and 2 are underground, as we saw earlier. San Francisco Station is also a park and ride, with 535 parking spaces, most of which appear empty on this Saturday afternoon. One wee little problem here. I'm at this giant crossroads, the restaurant's over there, and the crosswalk signals are not working. So I'm just walking out into traffic and hoping nothing hits me. Update, it looks like the place is closed. So my plan now is to go back to San Francisco Station and do a little research to see where else I can get some good food. Platforms on Tren Urbano are built to accommodate 6-car trains, but the system typically runs 2-car trains during midday and 4-car trains during peak periods. There's even signage on the platform for where to stand to board 2-car trains. Tren Urbano runs on 8-minute headways during peak travel and 12-minute headways off-peak. Another westbound train arrives and I step on board. The right-of-way we're on was originally eyed for an expressway by the Puerto Rican government, but it was eventually set aside for rapid transit prior to the line's construction. We pass the system's main yard, which stores many of Tren Urbano's 74 rail cars. It's around here that we cross the border from San Juan into the neighboring municipality of Guaynabo. Puerto Rico isn't divided into counties like most US states, and is instead carved up into municipalities. Tren Urbano continues to take us through Puerto Rican suburbia, past lush greenery, low-density sprawl, and a shopping plaza complete with an IKEA, before dropping us at Deportivo Station. Deportivo is located by the neighboring Bayamon Sports Complex, proudly advertised inside the station. I've got to say, I love the design of these stations. They've consistently been very cool. I love how the viaduct is kind of embraced as a central piece of the design, and it's a very sort of open feeling, as if the train's just kind of running in and out of it, but it's still kind of sheltered. Outside, I sit down to treat a low blood sugar, only to be approached by a squadron of Greater Antillean grackles. Then, it's a 10-minute walk to a restaurant that a station agent recommended to me, which is completely empty, as it's early for dinner by Boston standards, and Boston's dinner time is early by Puerto Rican standards. I get a plate of fried pork and mofongo, mashed plantains, with a very patriotic decoration and some yummy orange sauce I don't recognize. Well, that was really good stuff. I would say solid A-tier food. Now back to Tren Urbano to complete the entire system. Back at the station, there's a bit of a commotion. So, they just made an announcement, and I didn't really catch it because, as I have established in previous videos, my Spanish is not that great.
¿Cómo te sientes en México, Calais?
Okay. They're telling everyone to go to the other platform, so we'll see what's going on there. I follow the crowd to the eastbound platform, where my first 4-car train of the night arrives to take me the rest of the way to Bayamon, the end of the line. If you've been enjoying this video so far, please consider subscribing, and if you're already subscribed, do consider joining my Patreon so I can keep making more videos like this one.
Subscribe to the channel. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Tren Urbano is not the first train in Puerto Rico. Tramways and a national rail system began construction when the island was a Spanish colony, and expanded after takeover by the United States. Tram service in San Juan ended in 1946, and intercity passenger rail was suspended in 1953. In the decades that followed, car ownership sharply increased on the island, as numerous freeways were built. Just like on the mainland, Puerto Ricans soon realized they needed an alternative to the increasingly congested roadways and existing bus system. 1971 saw the creation of the Transportation and Urban Settlement Combined Action Plan, TUSCA to its friends. Plans from around this time show an express rail line circling the island and running inland to Caguas. Urban metro lines would feed into the system in major cities, including Ponce and San Juan, which would have multiple lines feeding into a magnificent central station in the newer part of downtown. But sadly, these lofty plans were turned down by those in power, quite possibly because of the sheer size and cost of the thing. In 1989, the Puerto Rico Department of Public Works began work on a more modest metro system for just the city of San Juan, bucking the trend towards light rail and streetcars on the mainland. After over a decade of development, Tren Urbano as we know it today began demonstration service in 2004, with regular service commencing in 2005. It was the only metro system in the Caribbean, until Santo Domingo opened theirs in 2009, and the only US metro system opened in the 21st century, until Honolulu opened theirs in 2022. It is still the only rapid rail of any kind in a US territory. But it came at a cost. Tren Urbano was 3.5 years behind schedule when it opened, and the original budget of $1.25 billion, a mix of local and federal funds, had nearly doubled to $2.25 billion. The line was also plagued by contractor disputes and construction quality problems. And when it opened, many riders criticized the high fares and lack of useful destinations. Tren Urbano's first segment was envisioned as phase 1 of a larger project, and was built to carry up to 40,000 passengers per hour per direction. For reference, the system saw 21,000 daily riders in 2025. Design of a second phase, taking trains further into San Juan's urban core, was well underway when the Puerto Rican government pulled the plug on the project, leaving the territory with an incomplete metro system to this day. We step off when we reach Rio Piedras, where our train pulls away. This station has drawn comparisons to LA Metro's B and D line stations, which were built around the same time. I can definitely see the resemblance. If you look closely here, you'll notice the operator get up and walk to the window while the train is still in motion. That's because while Tren Urbano has an operator on every train, the trains are automated in regular service. Heading up a long escalator, we pop out in the Rio Piedras barrio of San Juan, the first real urban density we've seen so far, and more than a little reminiscent of European cities I've visited in terms of land use. And putting a station right in the middle of this was intentional. Tren Urbano's original plans called for trains to run down the median of Avenida Luis Muñoz Rivera to the west, but forward-thinking designers changed the plan to stay closer to the urban center and university. These designers also prioritized community engagement. When the community said no to a cut-and-cover subway under Avenida Ponce de Leon, they built the section as a deep-bore subway instead, which took a little trial and error, but was ultimately successful. When residents voiced concern with trucks coming into and out of the dense neighborhood, a temporary concrete plant was built on-site instead. The Rio Piedras tunnel also includes a small provision for future expansion to the south and east. A lot of this behind-the-scenes information comes from the YouTube channel for the new Puerto Rican rail documentary Entre las Vías, which is currently playing in theaters in the Caribbean. Caleb is geographically constrained from doing his research. Instead, the only thing I am able to watch is Tren Urbano's departure screens. They are not great. They only have room for a single scrolling message at a time, and these alternate between English and Spanish, making them take even longer. Tren Urbano is not bad, it's just unfinished. It would be one of the best metro systems in the eastern United States if they finished it. And why did we stop building more metros like this? We embark on our final ride of the evening. After Universidad, the train emerges above ground, where we'll be running elevated for the remainder of the trip. Hato Rey Station serves the Coliseo de Puerto Rico, where Bad Bunny will be doing a residency from July to September of this year, and probably single-handedly inflating Tren Urbano's ridership numbers over those months. At one point, there was a ferry from here to Old San Juan, but this has now been discontinued, with the city's only urban ferry running from Old San Juan to Cataño. I took it after I filmed the rest of this video, and it was a fine way to kill an hour and $4. Our train continues onward to the last station, Sagrado Corazon, which serves the neighborhood and university of the same name. The grandeur of this elevated terminus is more than apparent when we step outside. But to reach Old San Juan, we now need to hop on a bus, which takes 30 minutes crawling through traffic to reach the Old City Bus Terminal. And I'll need to take an Uber from here back to the airport, because the last bus leaves at 8 p.m., and I'm staying up way past that. Old San Juan, founded in 1521, is one of the oldest European-built cities in the Americas. While it's very walkable in theory, it's a little hard to trek around in practice, as there's traffic everywhere. That's not surprising. This is a very touristy area of San Juan, sandwiched onto one side of a small island, connected to the main island only by bridges. But this dense city was built to guard against the English, French, and Dutch, not be the island's nightlife capital, so the combination of colonial infrastructure and 20th century transportation leads to a lot of traffic, really slow vehicle speeds, and reduced pedestrian safety. I didn't see a single controlled crosswalk anywhere. I personally think this area would really benefit from grade-separated rail transit that tourists and locals alike could park at and ride into the city. Thankfully, the Puerto Rican government is once again pushing for rapid transit between Sagrado Corazon, Old San Juan, and the dense neighborhoods in between, and they recently released a comprehensive study of different transportation solutions for this corridor. Okay, proposal 1 is to do it all with bus rapid transit? I mean, it's an improvement, but it's a lot weaker than a metro. Next. Wait, they really want to put a median light rail on that corridor? Could you imagine that with the Old San Juan traffic? Better than BRT, but we went the Tren Urbano extension. Okay, we're extending Tren Urbano one stop, and then keeping the BRT? The last one is probably the Tren Urbano extension, right? One stop extension with light rail? So none of these are full-on Tren Urbano extensions in one of the densest, most traffic-prone high tourism areas in the Caribbean? Surely they at least picked the last option as their final recommendation. Nope, they picked the BRT. Acho. This isn't a final decision, and the shovels aren't about to go in the ground, but as a proposal, it falls short next to the promising metro that's already there. Look, I'm not going to pretend I know much about Puerto Rico. I visited this island for one afternoon with a flight credit from a Disney World trip that went sideways. They have more pressing issues than electric trains to think about. For example, electricity. The Puerto Rican power grid still hasn't fully recovered from Hurricane Maria, which was almost 9 years ago as of the time of upload. Perhaps BRT is the best thing for the Commonwealth right now. It would still be an improvement, and when done right, bus lanes can speed up bus times and improve passenger experiences, not to mention costing way less than a metro. But to settle for that on this dense corridor would be kind of sad, because unlike most US cities, San Juan already has a functional metro system ready to go, just an unfinished one. And I'm not the only one who thinks that way. Carlos Pesquera, Puerto Rico's Secretary of Transportation and Public Works during Tren Urbano's early construction, still believes that the system is incomplete without stations further into San Juan. In a recent interview, he stated that an expanded system could be a great asset for San Juan, but that momentum for more metro in Puerto Rico needs to come from the Puerto Rican people. Perhaps the true conclusion of Tren Urbano's story will be written in the future by the riders it will one day serve. But one thing is for sure, its story had a good beginning.
Yo te traigo esta bomba puertorriqueña.